Unicorn in a Cloud.
All right. Welcome everyone to the inaugural episode of Mark versus Mike's Rock and Roll Battle.
Woo-hoo! Rock and roll.
I'm Mike, and I'm the kid brother to
Mark. I'm the oldest brother, of course. If he's the kid brother, I'm the oldest brother. Go for it.
We're about 2.5 years apart. We're both born in the 60s and in Chicago, raised on 70s music. And like most brothers that are just a couple years apart, growing up, everything was a competition. We've turned everything into a contest, usually with the winner, with the loser having to apologize to the winner. And so hopefully for your entertainment, we have such a competition in which we are going to leverage rock and roll to prove who is king of rock and roll. And the way this is going to work is each of us has selected an album. We're going to square off song by song on that album. We're going to have a debate. We're going to declare a winner of that song. Most wins against the album wins the contest. And so before we introduce the albums, just a little bit more about ourselves. We've gone to so many concerts together. It's really one of many things, rock and roll, that binds Mark and I together. And so, hey, bro, what does rock and roll mean to you?
Rock and roll means to get, like you said, we've grown up in rock and roll. I aren't I the one that introduced it to you?
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
And just what it means to me is just, I love, sometimes I just don't listen to the lyrics. I just love listening to the guitar, the drums. I mean, it goes into my soul. I love it loud. I love it hard, if you want to say that. But rock and roll just, it's good with anything. I mean, if I'm in a bad mood, I put on some type of rock album back in the 70s, 80s, and I'm in a good mood. So that's what that means to me. How about you, Mike?
Yeah, I agree. When you listen to the rhythm and the beats, it's all about rebellion and adrenaline and energy. It can also be rock and roll tells stories, and it can be very sentimental and heart touching, and it can draw tears. And so rock and roll is so dynamic. But as you said, you introduced it to me when you were out and about. I was listening to your record collection, so your rock and roll is my rock and roll. And so when I think of rock and roll, I think of family and I think of my brother.
Oh, isn't that so sweet? That's sweet.
And so this is actually take two. On the inaugural episode, I came up with the idea. So I thought about the album. I chose Boston's debut album, and I kind of shocked Mark. And the first album that came to his mind was AC/DC, Highway to Hell. And because I thought about it and I shocked him a little bit, it was a little bit of a mismatch. I actually won the round. And as soon as I won, there was a glitch. Whether it was accidental or it was on purpose, I will let you, the viewers, decide in the comments. Did Mark cheat, or was it just a technical glitch?
It was a technical glitch. Let me just tell you, I'm an honest guy. It was a technical glitch. But I could see how you could say I sabotaged it, though.
And so when he called and said, hey, we're going to do take two, he thought about the album, and he chose a killer album, Van Halen's debut album, 1978. Someone may have, I think a lot of people call it Van Halen 1, but it's their debut album. Kind of put me on the spot, and I immediately thought of Aerosmith Toys in the Attic. So the category late 70s, he chose Van Halen debut against Aerosmith's third album, Toys in the Attic. And at first I thought, man, it's a mismatch, just like the first episode. But this is going to be closer than you probably would imagine. Some similarities here. Van Halen's debut album was their breakout album. Their first album was a killer. Aerosmith had to wait till their third album. Their first two albums didn't do too well. The third album, Aerosmith Toys in the Attic, is breakout album. So we got two rock and roll bands from the mid to late 70s. We've pitted their breakthrough albums. Rolling Stone magazine ranks Toys in the Attic by Aerosmith number 228 all time. Van Halen's is 292. When you look at Guitar World and Rolling Stone and all that, and you look at the band members, Eddie Van Halen's like the third or fourth greatest all-time guitarist, but Joe Perry ranks in the top 10 or 15. You look at the bass, you look at the drummers, they match up pretty well. The lead singers, Steven Tyler is considered a top 10, 12 singer of all time. David Lee Roth's considered a top showman of all time, but doesn't show up on the top list. Toys in the Attic sells 11 million copies. Van Halen 1 sells 10 million. Toys in the Attic peaked at number 11. Van Halen peaked at number 19 that year. And so while it might seem like a mismatch in the beginning, I really think this is going to be a tough competition. So with that, what do you say? Do you want to get it on?
Let's do it. Let's do
All
it.
right. So song 1 is Toys in the Attic, which is the name of the album, Toys in the Attic against Running with the Devil. And so what is Running with the Devil? Why don't you tell us about the song and why you think it's the better song?
Well, I think it's the better song. First of all, it ranked number 84 on the Billboard charts on the singles back in 1978. But you know, when I listen to music, I don't listen to the lyrics all the time, but I listen to the, you know, the melodies, the music itself, the instruments. So Running with the Devil is about, you know, just, you know, being a bad guy, making sure, you know, just, you know, doing what you want, you know, living life to the fullest. And in that basically, you know, it's not necessarily running with the devil, but, you know, you can do bad things and run with them. So that's basically about it. But let me tell you a little something, how I heard of Van Halen, even the first album. I was, you know, Mike, when we went to Alley Stevenson High School, I was with some buddies, and I heard it for the first time on the radio, and they, one of the guys says, "Hey, this is going to be the next Led Zeppelin." Now, are they the next Led Zeppelin? I mean, we can probably put it up there, but I listened to the album. I mean, and the group is great. That this album is wonderful. But I think Running with the Devil, if you listen to the intro, and I didn't realize this till I looked it up, it starts out with you know, the car horns. They're actually car horns. So that's my take on that one.
And so it pits up against Toys in the Attic, song about being a little nutty in the head, and it's kind of similar with Running with the Devil. Lot of energy, great rockin' song. Aerosmith, I have 292 Aerosmith songs loaded into my cell phone. Toys in the Attic is on the set list of almost every Aerosmith concert, and so you get 20 songs in a concert. Aerosmith obviously views this as one of their top 20 songs. A lot of times they kick their concerts off with Toys in the Attic because of the energy. That said, it is hard to argue against Running with the Devil, a quintessential rock song. I'm surprised it only peaked at number 84.
Yeah,
it gets a lot of radio play, and I'll also tell you sort of there's a tale of two Aerosmiths and a tale of really two Van Halens. Aerosmith in the 70s, they broke up for 5 years, came back together in the 80s, kind of part 1, part 2. Van Halen, part 1, David Lee Roth, part 2, Sammy Hagar. I think part 1 for both bands, the Aerosmith of the 70s and the Van Halen of the 70s, stand the test of time. Yes. It is hard to argue with Running with the Devil. And so yes. I will give you the point. You are up 1-0. So let's go to song 2. I'll kick it off. This is Uncle Salty, and we are pairing the next two, Eruption, which is a 1:20 guitar solo by Eddie Van Halen, and You Really Got Me. So Uncle Salty against the combination of those songs. Uncle Salty's a really interesting song. It's a dark song. It's a song about a young girl, young lady in an orphanage who is cared for by someone named Uncle Salty, and the caregiver turns out to be the abuser, and he sexually abuses her. And then as a result, she ends up turning to prostitution, a really dark song. And when Steven Tyler wrote it, he said half of the song he envisioned himself as the victim, and half of the song he envisioned himself as Uncle Salty. And in the song, the way she kind of gets away from all of that pain and horror is it's a sunnier day outside her window. and it's a really dark, moving song that still has a strong melody. And so that's Uncle Salty against Eruption, and You Really Got Me. So why don't you tell us about those
All right.
songs?
So first of all, I had no idea. I love that album, Toys in the Attic. I had no idea what that was. What that
It's a dark
was.
song.
And it is a dark song. It's a good song, and I like the melody and the music on it. But let's go to Eruption, and You Really Got Me. Now you can't compare Eruption. Eruption is one of the best solos of all time, in my opinion, of course. And then You Really Got Me. Eddie Van Halen is one of the top 5 guitarists of all times, and You Really Got Me is a cover by the Kinks. Now, Van Halen's done several covers and from other bands, and I believe that every cover that they've done, and especially this one, You Really Got Me, it's better than the cover. What do you think, Mike?
I don't know if it's better than the cover, but Eruption is what started the comparisons between Eddie Van Halen and Jimi Hendrix.
Mhm.
And it is one of the quintessential guitar solos. You Really Got Me peaked at number 36. It's a top 40 hit. I think the original probably did a little bit better. Again, it's a bad matchup. I really love Uncle Salty. It's a dark song. It's probably a forerunner to Janie's Got a Gun, which is a huge hit for Aerosmith. And so bad matchup, you're up 2-0.
All right. Next one is Ain't Talking About Love for Van Halen.
Against Adam's Apple for Aerosmith.
Okay, so Ain't Talking About Love, another good song, which I'm surprised that didn't, got a lot of radio time, but it never made the charts. Now I'm thinking about it, Van Halen doesn't go deep like Aerosmith does, but he's talking about love, and I really don't know what the meaning of the song is. I just like the song. It's got a good tune. So how about you, Mike?
It's really, and Aerosmith falls into the same category. It's a song about getting laid, and it's not about romance. It's about just raw, passionate sex. And I'm shocked too that Ain't Talking About Love did not chart. The only thing I can think of in '78, disco is still hot. Billboard did not segment out hard rock, alternative rock. It was lumped in, and hard rock, I think, had a hard time competing in that era. But today it gets a lot of radio play. Adam's Apple is a very clever song. You think of Adam's Apple, the throat, but it's actually about the snake deceiving Eve and Adam and Eve. And it tells the biblical story in a hard rock way. And when she took the bite of the apple, when the snake convinced her, it was love at first bite. And so this is a deep track. It does get some radio play. It doesn't. Ain't Talking About Love is personally one of my favorite, not only Van Halen rock songs, but when I want to work out, it's on my playlist. It is a rockin' song. I love in the middle and standing by the edge, baby. I lost a lot of friends there, baby. No time to mess around. That's just awesome. So right now you're up 3-0. I have to give you that song. Next up is Walk This Way, song 4, against a deep track with Van Halen, I'm the One.
So I'll just give you up that one, right? That's the best, one of the best Aerosmith songs of all time. And then they got, Run DMC did it. How many years later did they do that?
They did it in '86. So this came out in November '75. Walk This Way did reach number 10. It was remade in '86, became number 1. It's one of the great all-time crossovers for rap and rock and roll. It put Aerosmith back on the map after a 5-year breakup, drugs and all that. And it started their comeback. And it's in a lot of commercials. It's in a lot of movies. And you're right, it's a mismatch. It's hard to argue against Walk This Way. So I am, point for me, 3-1.
All right.
Next up, song number 5, Van Halen's Jamie's Crying versus Big 10-inch. Why don't you tell us about Jamie's Crying?
Jamie's Crying is about a one-night stand, and Jamie, who's the girl in so-called in this song, it's just basically a one night stand, and she's upset that it's just a one night stand, didn't go any further. I just love this song, for for the tune itself, for the music, and it's just a rocking song to me.
Another one surprising, gets a lot of radio play today, was not a hit, was not a top 40 hit. The Big 10-inch is interesting song, interesting story. It's a remake from a 1952 blues song from Bull Moose Johnson. Aerosmith's in the studio recording. They're running out of songs, running out of ideas. Steven Tyler remembered years earlier hearing Big 10-inch on Dr. Demento. He could play the music. He couldn't remember the lyrics. He called Dr. Demento and said, hey, can you give me the lyrics? And Dr. Demento gave him the lyrics to Big 10-inch over the phone, and they recorded the song from that conversation.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
The other, it's a double entendre. She Just Wants My Big 10-inch Record of a Favorite Blues. And so you think the song's about sex and a guy bragging about his manhood, and then they flip it on, no, it's love about blues and jazz. And so it's that double entendre. And I'm just shocked at the lyrics from 1952. When you talk about Big 10-inch record and that double entendre, to me, that's a 70s, 80s things, but it's from 1952, interesting song. Again, it's a mismatch. Jamie's crying, vintage song, gets a lot of radio play. Have to get that to you. It's 4-1.
All right.
Song 6.
It's Atomic Punk.
From
And
Van Halen.
Van
And
Halen, which is
Sweet Emotion from Aerosmith.
So I can't even argue with that one. Sweet Emotion, one of the best songs of Aerosmith. Atomic Punk is a really good song. It's kind of hard, kind of rockish, but Sweet Emotion. It's a great song.
It's a top 40 hit. It's also been sampled. It's been in commercials. The beginning is really good. Yep, hard to argue. 4-2.
Okay.
All right. So now we're on song 7. It is Aerosmith's No More, No More against Van Halen's
Feel Your Love Tonight, right? That one?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so this song, No More, No More, it's a deep track. I sometimes hear it on the radio, kind of few and far in between. It's a semi-autobiographical song. Steven Tyler's father was a concert pianist, very famous. Steven Tyler was actually, I think, the 3rd or 4th generation musician. His father, his grandfather, his great-grandfather, all classically trained musicians, all famous in their own right. And the song starts out, blood stains the ivories of my daddy's baby grand, ain't seen no daylight since the start of this band. Steven Tyler literally grew up underneath his dad's baby grand piano while his dad was practicing. And that's where he got his love and kind of classical training of music. And then the song talks about how hard it is, the sacrifices you have to make to get your dreams. And he wanted the rock and roll dream. And the song talks about chasing rock and roll dream in favor of a traditional life with a wife. That wasn't for him. The 9-to-5 job. He put his blood on his daddy's baby grand to pursue his rock and roll dream. A really, really good song.
And Feel Your Love Tonight, and actually No More, No More, that is actually one of my favorite songs on that album, amongst Sweet Emotion and Walk This Way. But Feel Your Love Tonight did get some radio play back in the day. It's about love, and sex. I guess we can argue which one's better. I mean, Feel Your Love Tonight I believe got more radio play than No More, No More. Am I right on that?
I think it's roughly about the same. And this, we'll also tell you, No More, No More is Steven Tyler's favorite song. And he talks about it passionately. And like you, it's my favorite song on the album. And I would pick it over Walk This Way and Sweet Emotion, which were mega hits. And so I got to argue this one. I'm really going to lean in and think it's No More, No More.
Yeah, I agree with you.
All right, so it's 4-3. It's tightening up.
Yeah.
This is a typical Mark versus Mike. He's up 3-0. He's, all hoity-toity. He's going to win. And then here I am coming back. This next one's going to be a bit tougher. It is a Round and Round for Aerosmith and Little Dreamer for Van Halen.
Go ahead. Go. You can start out.
So Round and Round is a song co-written by Brad Whitford and Steven Tyler. And the song is about
Really? Not again.
Did I make you think
That was good. That was good. Okay. Now the people are going to know what we're laughing about, but that's exactly how it did the first time. And you did that perfectly. Oh my God, here we go again. It's about this time that it happened.
Yep, and I knew. All right,
Okay.
back to the contest. Song is co-written by Brad Whitford and Steven Tyler has a very heavy beat. It's about a relationship that seems to go in circles. The arguments are without end. The arguments repeat themselves. And so it's really about a song about friction between a couple. So what's Little Dreamer about?
Little Dreamer is about just dreaming, whatever you want to dream, just believe in yourself, just dream and dream and dream, and good things will happen to you. So I don't know, that's kind of close, but I don't know if I just thought that this got radio play. Did it get radio play, Little Dreamer?
I don't think it did, and
Because when I started listening to this album again, I said, oh man, this is a really good song.
It's funny because this was my least favorite song in Van Halen, and Round and Round is my least favorite song on Toys in the Attic, and so I agree it's kind of close, but I think I'm going to give it to you. I think it's 5-3.
Okay, cool.
The last song is "You See Me Crying." We're going to have to. There's one more song on Van Halen than Aerosmith, so we pre-agreed that we would discount Ice Cream Man and "You See Me Crying" is against "On Fire." And so why don't you go On Fire?
So this was, I don't remember what the song was about, but I just like the song, and I'll give you this one because what's the last one? It's one of their ballads, right?
It is,
But
and
one of their ballads for the first, that first set of Aerosmith, and then later on they had a lot of ballads. But
agreed. But what I like about this is the infusion of the orchestra. So there's an orchestra on this song, very very melodic, heavy on violins, heavy on piano, not your traditional rock and roll song, not even your traditional rock and roll ballad. Very melodic, again, emotions in a relationship where the man in the relationship breaks down and you see me crying. And it is after No More, No More, it's one of my favorites on Toys in the Attic. And so I'm going to claim victory here. And while I won this battle, you won the war. Congratulations. You won 5-4.
All right.
And for this week, you are the king of rock and roll.
There you go. So,
and that's a wrap. That's our first episode. Let us know who was right, who was wrong. How would you have scored this contest? And which album do you think is the better of the two albums? Please comment below and remember to hit the subscribe button.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.